This is your boy Brian from Angry Blackman, and you are watching
The Cabbages Podcast with Gary.
You can't have a podcast about rappers and movies without talking about Will Smith,
Yeah, it's
the
insane.
biggest star on the planet for a long time.
And the most successful rapper turned actor of
Fair.
all time. Say what you will about so many of the other people we've talked about, nobody has had the level of success as an
Right,
actor that he did, having started out as a rapper.
right.
Nobody. So we had to do a Will Smith movie, and obviously there's so many to choose from. Of course, we chose Wild Wild West. It
Yeah.
wasn't a film that I had seen before. It wasn't
No,
a film that
same.
you'd seen either.
I'd seen. I know that at some point I sat down and tried to watch it and was like, "What is happening? I'm just going to do something else."
Mm-hmm.
I know that that happened, but I didn't remember all of this.
I had seen every Will Smith movie up until this point.
Hmm.
So I had seen like basically from 1992. Like I think I even saw the film that he did where he was like a secondary character in the film that film where Whoopi Goldberg and Ted Danson had a daughter that he wasn't aware of. Because he
Uh-huh.
was a sperm donor. And her boyfriend in the film is played by Will Smith. That's like 91, 92. I forget what it's
Right.
called, but he's like a used car salesman, Ted Danson's character. So like I think I'd seen every single, and obviously watched Fresh Prince, but I'd
Yeah,
seen
yeah,
every
yeah.
single Will Smith movie.
We grew up in the Will Smith generation.
Yeah. So here I am now,
We are a generation of Will Smith watchers.
like
Yeah,
2024. Now is the time to watch Wild Wild West.
right.
And we did it. We watched it.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
watched it.
We watched
Listen,
it.
we there's only really one. We back, Gary.
Yeah. We
We
back.
back. This is it. This
Yeah.
is how we run our operation. Everything seems ship shape.
Yeah. I mean, look,
Let's get it rolling.
we got great guests. Let's do it. We got Angry Blackmen out of Chicago coming in to talk about this. So let's make it happen. I am excited to introduce our guests for today's show. Joining us now are the Chicago hip hop duo Angry Blackmen. Members Quentin Branch and Brian Warren have just dropped their intense, absolutely essential new album, The Legend of ABM, via the influential Death by Mark label, with features from Cabbage's favorites Fatboy Sharif and Sketch 185. It's available now wherever music is streamed or sold. Hello and welcome to the show.
I'm happy to be here.
Hey,
Thank
man.
you. Thank you.
It's good to
I'm so
it's good to hear you say that. You know, it's good because we did something. We first and foremost, this is the Cabbage's bread and butter, is just making people watch awful films. But sometimes I like it crosses over, it makes me feel really awful.
You know, and the thing is like sometimes we have guests on and there are people who I've like had a lot of interaction with either online or we've done an interview before or I've reviewed a record. So there's something, you know, even if it's just in the DMs. But like other than say, I think a couple of stray tweets here and there, like this is the first time that we are actually all convening and having a discussion. And what a topic to approach this with.
Absolutely. Man, this movie is funny. I have such a
Hey,
weird
well, hold on,
history
hold
with
on.
this
Wait,
movie.
hold on one second. Before you start,
course,
I have
Jeff.
a weird history with this fucking movie. Like,
Okay,
I
go
need
ahead.
to
I'm ready. I'm ready now. I'm in the zone.
I've never seen this shit until now. To be honest with you, like it was something. I was born in the mid '90s, so when
Mm.
this movie came out, I was about 4 or 5. I would think I was like 4. And I remember the toys, the tie-in toys for Burger King. And
Oh
I love
yeah,
Will
man.
Smith.
They sold this to
Yeah,
kids for sure.
yes. So I never, everybody was saying like how horrible this movie was. So I never took like the time to actually check it out until now. And it's bad, but it had a lot of heart.
Mm.
And
Okay.
I'm glad that I saw it before I turned 30. I can say that.
Okay. Okay. I like that.
Brian, had you seen this before?
Yeah, I seen it when I was a kid. I seen bits and parts of it, and like I never like fully like actually connected with it until I was forced to sit down and actually watch it. And I say it aged well for what it was, but I wouldn't put that like in the best of the best.
Especially
Okay.
like for 1999. I just want to add that because 1999 is a phenomenal year in movie history.
Yeah.
And for that to
It
come out in
is.
1999 is like just kind of ridiculous. Like, they were just throwing shit at the wall before Y2K.
It's such a weird time because you bring up Y2K, and obviously like 1999 is a strange year because 1999 is the year of the Matrix. And
Yes.
Yeah.
that's like the idea of kind of redefining the sci-fi blockbuster sort of, huge event movie. And Will Smith had like the huge sci-fi blockbuster event movie a few years prior with Independence Day, and then
Right.
a couple years later with Men in Black. So it was a genre that he sort of owned as a movie star. And what ends up happening,
1999 was also the year that Prince said it was going to pop off. And I think that might be true. It popped off a little bit movie wise. I don't really like any of those movies, but they were like major cultural touchstones and like still to this day parodied and used and sort of gold standards for what they were trying to accomplish for sure.
like, it's a big year for movies. It's
Yeah.
definitely a big year for movies. And I think a lot of people who may not have been prepared for this particular film, even given all the other stuff that came before, because of the atmosphere of what's coming out. I think you're getting like the raunchy comedies as well, your American Pies, things like that start emerging in this period. So it's a
Yeah.
strange time for movies, period. And Will Smith, who is at that stage one of the biggest stars in the world, movies or otherwise, like he's on top of everything. And it's kind of an odd film that happens, but there are reasons why it exists, and it has a lot to do with the fact of the success of Men in Black.
Oh, absolutely. It's the same director. I didn't even realize that was Barry Sonnenfeld. I was
Yeah.
like, that makes a lot of
This
sense.
is a Barry
and
Sonnenfeld joint. How did I miss that? I
it
watched
is.
the credits
It-
twice.
I was surprised. I was like, this feels like off-brand Men in Black. But to be fair, like Men in Black's a whole different story. I just think like the first and the third one are good movies.
The issue between the two films, well, there's numerous issues between the two films as to why one is good and why it's bad. But one particular one that really drove me completely insane is how often this movie slipped into like, by the way, this is just Looney Tunes. Like, think reality can bend and stretch at our whim here. This is a cartoon. But don't let that take away from the like very serious plot that we're trying to display.
How would you describe that plot, Jeff? What would be your description of the plot of this movie?
Are you ready for this description?
I want to hear your like 2-sentence description of what this movie is. For those who don't know.
Two cops pursue a Confederate general after the Civil War is over. That would be the like the blurb that you would get on TV.
That makes it sound mad serious.
It does, because that's what's happening. Also, second say you gave me 2 sentences.
I gave you
Also, all caps, giant spider.
Yes, giant spider.
All caps. That's where I'm going with it.
The giant spider obviously is one of the big things. It's on the posters. It has its own incredible history that goes well beyond this movie. God, the giant spider. I don't know if I'm even ready to talk fully about this, but
I think we should stay surface level and get into the giant spider later.
Do you guys know anything about the giant spider aspect of this other than what you saw on screen? Do you guys know any of the history with this giant spider?
I don't, I'm gonna be honest, but I had the toy when I was like 5.
I did
you
not
had
have the toy. I don't know.
One of the producers of this film, this guy John Peters, was obsessed with having somebody fight a giant spider in a movie. So he pitched it as an idea when they were trying to make a 5th Superman movie. So in the 90s, they want to make a Superman movie. In the 90s, I think Nicolas Cage was up for it for a bit. Yeah, so Superman Returns, I think it was called, or Superman Lives is one of those. And then that didn't happen. Then they were going to make a Sandman adaptation, the comic books in the 90s to the movies, and he wanted a giant spider in that. And in the end, he got it in 1999's Wild Wild West. He got the giant spider, which apparently is an homage to like old King Kong movie stuff where there's King Kong versus a giant spider. So I think that that's, but this person's
which
obsession with
fits
it is
perfectly in the
Mm.
wild, wild west.
It
right.
fits perfectly. Like
Firmly in the history books were the problems they had with King Kong
The
and
spiders.
giant spiders.
I want to take it back though, because I feel like the giant spiders thing certainly is a lot of recurring stuff for that. But I think that like I want to get a sense from our guests about let's move this back a few steps because of kind of you talk about kind of growing up in the '90s and being a kid in the '90s. I'm curious about what is your experience with Will Smith, because like for my generation, it's like I knew him from DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince records, and that stuff was definitely like for a young person in the late 80s and early 90s in listening to hip hop. Like this is something that we picked up. Jeff and I have talked about He's the DJ, I'm the Rapper as a record that we both knew
Jamesville.
from kids. But I'm curious about your experiences with Will Smith, either as an actor, as an artist.
I really didn't have much of a light with Will Smith because I only saw him on Fresh Prince. I didn't really watch any of his movies like that growing up.
Right.
Because I never really watched. If you ask me personally, and Q even know me, I never really watched movies like that or much TV. Was always outside. But from what I can gather from with Will Smith, he was just real film hungry and just his ego was really high. If you ask me, I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Man, fuck all that. I'm gonna give you the real. Will Smith is that. Can we curse on here?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Go ahead. We curse all
Will
the fucking
Smith is
time.
that nigga, bro. He was like the first black actor that was doing this shit. He was my favorite actor when I was like 5 to like 11. I still love Will Smith, to be honest, because he had a crazy run from like 93 or 94 to like 2010, maybe 9. But I always, I grew up with Will Smith, like his movies. I didn't know he was a rapper until I was like a teenager, to be honest. But he was that guy, like movie wise. I loved Men in Black. I loved Enemy Estate. I loved Independence Day. I Am Legend. Growing up on that Men in Black 2, like growing up on his run in the late 90s and early 2000s, I just thought he was the greatest, honestly. Until I got more into film. I'm like, oh, he's just a fun time actor. But to be fair, since he was one of the first, like, not one of the first black actors, but one of the first, like, bankable black stars, he was kind of pigeonholed. So he had to do what he had to do. So I respect him for paving a way for a whole new generation. He don't get his flowers, but when he passes, knock on wood, people gonna see like what he did, especially for like the action hero, Bad Boys, all that shit. So that's my take on Will Smith.
It feels
I
absolutely
think
right.
it feels right to say that Gary and I have grown up through a very long, but really you could call us the Will Smith era. We were young when he was a rapper. We were blossoming into bigger humans when he was acting on the show on TV.
Yeah.
We were becoming adults when he started doing movies more toward adults and all these like sci-fi bangers and like a movie every year. I zoned out at a time where I was just like, these Will Smith movies are kind of all alike, but
they kind of are.
It's true. They're fun, but he chose. I remember reading an article back in the day, and he chose roles based very much on like he likes there to be a tinge of sci-fi or superhero. And this was before the like superheroes are the only movies that come out anymore era. So he was like on this, he was like, this is what people really want their action stars to do. It's less fighting dudes and quipping, it's more being on crazy flying objects and being on new planets and like dealing with aliens and stuff.
There is that generational thing that exists there. We do absolutely have that with him. At the same time, it's like there was a sort of like invincibility to him, like up until this point, where it's like he did 1993 6 Degrees of Separation, which is not a film that I saw as a kid, but I saw it probably in my early 20s, and it's like, wow, like this was like a real breakout, meaningful role. And then he does this sort of big box office stuff, your Independence Days and the like. And then this movie happens, and I think we'll spend a lot of time talking about this movie, obviously. But like after that, he sort of pivots to like the Oscar bait approach.
Right.
So he does Legend of Bagger Vance, which doesn't really get what he wants, but then he does Ali, which obviously gets a lot more play, a lot more attention. And then he does Men in Black 2, is his first sequel. So like this sort of like he rebounds from this moment and continues to be a very bankable, successful movie star and gets to like the critical acclaim aspect of it as well, especially after a thing like this that doesn't hit. So I think it's interesting just kind of the way we all engage with him as an entertainer from our respectives.
What this movie does, because he was on top,
yeah,
tippity top. And what this kind of movie does is it empowers dummies, executives, to be like, now we can deny him roles, which is what they wanted to do all along. I don't like executives. Sorry.
No.
I can see that for sure. Yeah, he was on top, man. It was like, I could see that.
And then he pivots. He's like, okay, cool. You guys think that I can't do this thing anymore. I'm going to do these roles that people are like, this will get you an Oscar instead of like fun family popcorn flicks. Fine. I'll go dominate that too. And he did. Did a pretty good job.
Yeah, Will Smith was honestly like the Drake. If we had to compare him to anybody music-wise, he was the Drake of his era. Like he really was.
I love it. You're absolutely right.
Because like I'm telling you, I'm perplexed, Brian. I guess you really fuck with him like that. I'm surprised at your answer. I was like, man, I feel like for a lot of like black kids growing up, Will Smith was that guy. And then I delved into like, you know, Denzel Washington and got deeper into that. But Will Smith was that guy.
I never really listened or watched any of Will Smith's movies like that. I have in the past due to other people putting me on, and I'm just walking the room and the movie's on. Like,
not even iRobot? This is crazy.
I've seen iRobot. I've seen I Am Legend, but we was watching Wild Wild West, so I was like, okay, the most I've formed about him, like out of this movie, is he was at his peak. He wanted to keep going. He wanted to keep getting like his shine.
Bro, you didn't even like Fresh Prince like that?
I like the Fresh Prince, but I was watching more Martin than Fresh Prince.
This makes sense. You just answer everything right there.
That's fair.
That makes like so much. You said Martin. You said
that's it. Smith. Yeah.
Oddly enough, my household rolled with both. Like my fave was Fresh Prince, and then my dad would watch Martin like later in the night, and I was allowed to stay up with him. It was awesome.
You know, I gotta say, like, the reason why you guys ended up with a Will Smith movie is entirely because of I Am Legend. So I was, when I'm reading like the press materials around your record, apparently the novel I Am Legend obviously was meaningful to you guys in terms of influential to you guys in putting together this new album. You've both seen the movie version, yeah?
Yeah.
I've seen the movie. I know Brian hasn't read the novel, but I kind of filled him in on the differences. So I've read the novel before, like twice, but
yeah. What do you feel like the novel gets that maybe the movie did or didn't get?
Man, it gets isolation, it gets loneliness, it gets hopelessness. The novel is just really, I don't want to say this without sounding too pretentious. It's just really, it's interesting to see like this is written during like I think it was 54, and how it reflects to our time. It's timeless, man. Like I feel like it had a special story to tell, and I feel like the movie just went for Hollywood, you know, big action blockbuster, which is nothing wrong with it, but it kind of butchered the source material and just a lot of its themes. And that book is just great. Like just the thing of being a legend, like not the legend in the sense like, oh, I'm legendary, but legend in the sense like you're something to be feared. This is a story of you that's gonna be passed down to generations. That's kind of how I remember going to Brian. I'm like, this should be like our album. That's like the legend of us, not like necessarily like we're legendary, but the story of how we came together and the story of what we're trying to tell.
Whatever segue to this film that we have to talk about. The differences between Wild Wild West, the TV show, and Wild Wild West, the source material and the movie it's supposed to come from, are far different. far different, I believe.
It's wild, other than say the names of the main characters and the fact that it's Ulysses S. Grant, the very little similarities between the two. Now, the TV show is kind of considered sort of a steampunk precursor in popular culture. It's one of the first instances where it was integrated into television as opposed to kind of in literature and the way people have written about things. But they took a lot of liberties. This film took a lot of liberties, and the people who were originally involved in it were not thrilled about those liberties. But I could dwell very much on that point, but I think I'd like to start casting some blame here for this film. And I think it goes to the original writers of the film. Jeff, have you read anything about the writers of this movie?
I tried to pay as little attention to this film as possible at some point. I swear to God, like I said earlier, I watched the credits twice.
Yeah.
Had no idea who the director was. I read the Wikipedia, couldn't tell you a thing about it.
Okay.
Just this movie was a wash for your boy.
Yeah. Do you happen to know the names S.S. Wilson and Brent Maddock? Do you know those names?
I don't.
Are they familiar to you?
Shouldn't I? Oh no.
Yeah, you're really gonna want to just come to me in a second.
I've blocked it from my memory.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Go ahead.
So they're a writing team who worked on a number of films. Among them are
which ones have we watched?
Short Circuit is one of them.
Ooh, okay.
Battery's not included. So real kind of
they got a theme going.
Ghost Dad. And Jeff, this is where it really hits. It's gonna hit you hard, man.
Don't do it.
I don't think you're ready for this. Tremors 1 and 2.
They're gods. They're actual gods on Earth.
No, they wrote Wild Wild West, motherfucker. They do not gods.
How did they fall so far from grace?
That's for context, guys, Jeff is a
Tremors
huge fan
incredible.
of Tremors. He loves that movie.
I've also seen them all, and I'm watching the TV show. It
sucks so bad.
I never seen them. I just know DiCaprio was in one of them.
It's a mess. It's got Michael Gross from Family Ties in it. It's a terrible thing. But the point being is your favorites did that. Your favorites did that, Jeff. And I just wanted you to know that. I wanted you to be
Listen, it happens. Not everybody can be precise and on point every time. That's hard to do. I forgive them almost. Not for Wild Wild West. Almost. For most of it, it's fine.
So now that I've cast some blame on Jeff's favorite movie and the writers of those films, I'd like to talk a couple, because I think we could probably spend a lot of time talking about everything we don't like. That's for me. But what are things about this film that you did like? And I'm happy to go first with, I think, my favorite thing about this film. My favorite thing about Wild Wild West, and I want to make clear, I had zero objection to seeing a bunch of Confederate soldiers get slaughtered by a automatic machine gun fire tank vessel, whatever that was. That to me was one of the most, that was like Inglourious Basterds level of gratification, just to watch these guys just get slaughtered in like record time. That made me quite pleased.
Yeah, same.
Yeah,
I don't know. You described it so vividly. I don't really know.
It's just one of the best parts of the film. I guess I'm trying to find some silver linings in this thing. Are there other parts of this film that maybe you guys liked or thought that were interesting, redeeming, at least entertaining?
When I say it aged well, it was the part where they were running through the cornfield after they were caught on the railroad tracks, because the what was his name? Officer Gordon. He was attracted to the lady, and she let off the smoke bomb, right? And they got caught. And then what was the evil dude name? What was his name? Loveless. Put those magnetic neck things on their neck, and they were running through the field, and they kind of wasn't afraid to poke fun at like just very like gay things when Will Smith was like by his balls, because the magnet just reaching towards his belt buckle. So like they were able to poke fun. They didn't mind poking fun at like just different type of things like that. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, you like the comedy of it. I can see that.
So it was like the comedy of it didn't really, it aged well, in my opinion.
There's sort of the Looney Tunes aspect of it that Jeff was talking about before, where it's like the slapstick comedy of the magnets. Oh, now the magnets, the repellarities.
Or the pool table can turn you around and move you.
Yeah,
right.
Well, it was a lot of that. I like some of the aspects of it too. I can't even lie. Like what I thought was interesting how they handle race in that movie. I was like, how are they going to handle him being black? Like when I was growing up with that movie, I never seen it, and I always wondered, like, this is a dude in the West, and like, Confederate days and shit. How do they handle this? I always thought that. I just never wanted to watch the movie, and so I finally got my answer. I was like, oh, it's like not treated as that serious. Like it's kind of, oh boy, and you know they call him boy, and oh you're a dark soldier. You know it's like jokey. It's not Django Unchained.
No.
Mhm.
And it's interesting to me because you mentioned Enemy of the State before, and there's a similar thing early on in Enemy of the State that I remember where they're with the I think there's some mobsters, some Italian mobsters, and sort of he basically like corrects them on the right slur they're supposed to be using in Italian to call him. Like Will Smith is
Yeah,
kind of versed in this sort of like schooling racists on screen on what's what, and it was entertaining then, and there was a lot of that in this. Again, a lot of it played for laughs, but also like, there's some parts of this where you have to start questioning. You talk about there being Burger King toys, but there's like a lynching scene in this film,
Mm.
or
yeah,
an attempt at a
absolutely.
lynching.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it is a film that it is, it's PG-13, but there are scenes like that don't feel like family films. When he's drumming on breasts, that don't feel like a family film.
And it started with a like steamy, nearly naked woman, and then they
Oh
just
yeah.
sort of like
Oh,
never come back to that idea of like, oh, this is kind of a for adults hot movie. They just throw it right at the beginning and then are like, enough.
I that was also a
Yeah.
real shame that basically like you see
Weird.
her in that water tower. She was on the Jamie Foxx show. She later
Yeah.
did NYPD Blue. Garcelle. She's a great actress. So she just plays girl in water tower is her credit on this film. And it's just like
Yeah.
she was already like
Oh,
a TV. She was already on TV. She'd been on the Jamie Foxx show for a couple of
Yeah.
years at that point. She was already like an actress who was known, and we never see her again in the rest of the film. That's just like a complete waste of it at the end of it. Like, why are they both competing for Salma Hayek's attention when Salma Hayek is completely wasted in this film? No reason for her to even be in this thing.
absolutely.
But like, you could have
Absolutely.
brought back that person. Like, it just like no, that's not important. It's the serial nature of this. So there's a lot of misses that happen there. But I think like this, the humor has its moments where I think it connects because there's a certain timelessness to slapstick, the certain timelessness to people falling and weird, wacky things happening to folks. At the same time, there's also a lot of really just like the parts that I think that I see as pretty dated is sort of this sort of jokes about cross-dressing that go on in it. There's a lot of just like men in drag kind of being paid for humor that just like in at this stage I'm just kind of going like how they thought like that itself was a joke. Like that doing that is in and of itself a joke. So
I was a little,
Kevin Kline is
disappointed at
there.
the end.
Yeah.
Like when Will Smith wore that, and I was like,
Well, I mean, and then that goes into sort of the whole issue of like, okay, well, you take it, how many black actors of his generation and have had to wear a dress in order to be in Hollywood, like that phenomenon that has occurred, where it's like it's hard to look at it. Like at this point, Will Smith is like the biggest star in the world, and it's like he doesn't need to turn into a belly dancer towards the end of the film. He has spent the whole
yeah,
film showing his masculine bona fides. There's nothing about his masculinity. It's like, no, we have to find some way to emasculate this character for the purpose of the scene. And they play it for laughs, but you go like, well, what is it? Looking at it through like a 2024 lens is like, what am I supposed to be laughing at here? Like, what a part of this is actually funny? That they think he's a woman, or that we know it's Will Smith and he's not
Right. And there's
Even when Artemis Gordon was first introduced as like the ideal drag, they were when they were where was he at that strip club? It looked like
at the brothel. Yeah, at the brothel.
Yeah.
brothel. Yeah.
So yeah, I was like, they're playing on the early idea because it was around the time where like drag was coming out, but it wasn't.
it was popular. You had Mrs. Doubtfire. You had a bunch of all this, drag for laughs movies. So no, you hit the nail on that.
You can do that and there be jokes.
Right.
You can
That's
do
the
that
thing
and
is that
just
it
and that
wasn't
be the
funny.
joke. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it just wasn't funny because it's just Will Smith being like, you look like you look like a woman.
Okay.
That's basically the whole thing.
Got it.
Yeah, no, those are there's not a lot of like jokes that landed with me. I loved there was at one point he said where I'm from, and this guy goes, Georgia?
God, that was
the crowd.
during
He
the
goes,
lynching.
Africa.
Yeah, Africa. I was
Like he's
oh.
really mad about like Africa. Like Georgia. That got a laugh out of me. There were a few little like linguistic foible jokes that got me.
I can't even say I laughed at this movie once.
All we know is that they're cops fighting a giant mechanical spider.
Eventually fighting.
Eventually. And we don't even know about the spider. We're just given a lot of weird spider imagery.
One of the first lines in this film is giant spider. The scientist who's running through the field.
Right. He says
blade
it.
coming at him. He's like, giant spider. It's like, okay, why is he like, I guess like if you watch movies with captions on, then you might notice that. But if you're first just sitting down to watch this film and you know next to nothing about it, like it's not a reveal. It's just
right.
a person running in a field and you're trying to get a sense of where am I, what's happening right now.
Right.
In the same way, they never really properly explain why that guy's ear is like a horn. other than to play the RCA joke with the puppy later on and make it look like the RCA logo where there's a puppy next to the ear horn.
He also empties that thing.
Questions about that.
And it's
questions about that.
It's like one of the dumbest, grossest, for no reason, just gross. Oh,
that was a nasty scene.
They got me.
It doesn't need to be in there. It's one of those things.
I feel like that movie just really like it's just like it's so frustrating because they could have did so much more with it, but it was so limited in what they had to do. And one thing I noticed about Will Smith's early career is that he's always like opposite like this white guy, and it's like a buddy cop thing. I know that was his intro into like the stardom and shit, but Will Smith's character was so interesting. And you got the guy who's just like bland. What was it? Something Klein?
Yeah, Kevin Kline.
Kevin Kline. Yeah. I've seen him in a couple things, but I don't know. They didn't really have no chemistry like that. At least Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones. Will Smith. I'm not trying to segue to a better Barry Sonnenfeld movie, but at least Will Smith and Tommy Jones had amazing chemistry in fucking Men in Black. All the Men in Blacks, even the shitty ones.
Yeah.
I have never seen 3. I loved 1 and tolerated 2.
3 is actually pretty good.
But 1 is like just a wonderful movie. I love it.
It's what's missing. It's that 1, there's jokes in Men in Black.
Right.
There are actual jokes in Men in Black. There are also sight gags that happen in it too. Funny things happen in that movie and is written in that way. And 2, as Quentin pointed out, there is chemistry between the 2 leads as comic chemistry. And you can have these duos. Like
also the dialogue makes them into human beings and they have like real problems. And there's, the introduction of like really wonderful toys that seem just out of reach. Like, maybe we can at some point zap somebody's memory and start over.
Yeah. Right.
I don't know. But in this one, all of the inventions were like from the Goonies. Like if the Goonies had a real budget.
That's a good way to put it.
Like he's got a thing that punches out of a rose and it knocks a guy out. Like he hits somebody with a small rose. And the guy's like, ugh. And he just like passes out.
What about the hypno belt?
The hypno belt? These are things from the very beginning of the film too. The pool table, the train is full of booby traps, but he only uses like 2 of them.
They threw a lot of ideas at a thing. I think that's what ends up happening. You throw a lot of ideas, I think, but it doesn't actually come out to being a good movie. And it's like a lot of it is just choices. Like Kenneth Branagh, who plays the bad guy, plays Loveless. Like he does this facial hair that's just like inexplicable. Like there's no reason I can think of why his facial hair looks that way. There's also and maybe one of you can help explain this. What kind of accent is he supposed to be doing in this? What is his accent?
I had no fucking clue. I'm like, if it's supposed to be a country accent, I wasn't rocking with it. It's me. I wasn't rocking with it.
Nah, it's not it, son. That shit was whack.
It
was things I liked about it.
Like when he first gets introduced, and again, you realize he's got no legs, and he's a character from the TV show. Apparently, he has no legs. Apparently, he was a little person in the original show.
Oh,
and so they make him legless in this one, which I don't know. They make their choices. Again, there's a lot of wild choices. But when they first introduce him, I'm like, and they talk about New Orleans, I'm like, oh, so he must be. He's got like a Cajun accent. But the more he talks, I'm like, there is none. This is just like a voice.
Gary and I
inexplicably.
text during our viewings. We
Yeah.
do multiple, so I had to watch this thing twice.
Twice.
And we text back and forth. And at some point, Gary brought up the idea that this guy was basically just doing a bad foghorn leghorn.
Because you said Looney Tunes, and I'm thinking, okay, this has got to be like I say, you know.
And so I started assigning Looney Tunes characters to each one.
God.
Who's Will
And
Smith?
Will Smith is Bugs Bunny.
Oh
Clearly.
yeah,
Absolutely,
You gotta be
it's Bugs
Bugs.
Bunny,
It's Bugs.
100%.
Mm.
What's up, dog?
And then Kevin Kline, I was having trouble with. So if anybody can think of what Kevin Kline might be, he's got an Elmer Fudd-ish vibe.
I was thinking that.
He's too smart for Fudd.
Selma Hayek was the lady skunk that all the
Hmm.
other cats and skunks are in love with.
If I had to be kind to Kevin Kline, I would say there's a Wile E. Coyote bit going on there. But I don't.
Yeah, there's a little of that. I also think there might be a little Daffy Duck,
Yeah,
You know?
a little bit of that.
but just not as good. Daffy was so
No.
good.
Well, the thing is, there's not a lot of good
Shout
to
out
this
Mel
movie.
Blanc.
There's not a
Yeah,
lot of
shout
good
out
to
to
this
that
movie.
man. Because actually, I watched a video about his different voices. I ran across a tweet. It was like the many voices of Mel Blanc.
Yep.
There's that,
He's incredible.
I am a wabbit. They're like like chained, like yelling.
The greatest voice actor of all time.
I am a
Absolutely.
wabbit.
It was all screams, right? Like I've seen that, and it's all like at like top level lungs. I'm a loud dude. I can't do it. They're just he had such wild vocal range.
Oh, I'm dying again. That's just hilarious. That was weak. He picked that shit over The Matrix.
Yeah.
Ooh,
I mean,
crazy.
look, the competition's hard. Matrix comes out in March, and then Wild Wild West comes out in July. It's just like
He did a July 4th thing for years. Like his movies would come out on July 4th.
He owned that weekend. He owned
Yeah.
July 4th week. He owned it with.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember seeing
It was
Independence
like Big
Day.
Willie.
I remember seeing Independence Day in the theaters on
Right.
July 4th week, like, and it was all
Yeah.
tied to that. So he owned that. That was his summer. He owned that summer
Yeah.
weekend. There's one aspect of this film that was a hit. One aspect of the film that was a hit, and that is the song "Wild Wild West."
Oh yes.
Oh, yeah. I've heard that song before.
That was #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 charts. The #1 song in the country. Only one of 2 songs that Will Smith has ever released that hit #1. The other one being Getting Jiggy
Here
With It,
comes the man. Oh, that was
a year
Men in Black?
prior, 1998.
Getting Jiggy with it was a #1 hit.
#1 hit, and then Wild Wild
Wow.
West was his second #1 hit. And
America.
a little bit of note with that. So obviously he's joined on that track. If you think about that song, if you know that song, really the parts of it song you remember are not Will Smith's parts. You remember Kool Moe Dee doing the Wild Wild West part of it,
Right.
and you remember the sung part, which I will not attempt to imitate because I am not a singer, but I will say that's Drew Hill, and essentially that's Cisco
Right.
doing that.
Cisco.
And
That's a name I heard in a while.
The
So
star
Cis-
power on this song.
Yeah. So Cisco, Kool Moe Dee, and it's based on obviously Stevie Wonder's I Wish.
Not to mention it was already a massive hit. People love it.
That was sort of Will Smith's formula at that point, was take a massive hit and
Yeah.
like convert it into one of his own songs. You know, obviously Men in Black.
Plus he gets
you know.
double paid.
Yeah.
He's an artist twice in that film. He's getting double paid. He's cashing a large check and then another check. You know what I mean?
This film doesn't do very well at the box office. It loses tens of billions of dollars, you know, off of its $170 million budget. But they still performed this song at the 1999 MTV Movie Awards. And guess who joins them on stage for it? Stevie Wonder himself.
Oh,
Right. I saw that.
You could catch video of this online. Stevie Wonder playing at the piano for this song.
The marketing
with the-
around this movie was like super banging. So it really has to suck for people not to have gone to see this. It was thrown at the radio was playing it everywhere.
Yeah, sure.
MTV was showing that video all the time, round the clock. It was a #1 hit. So everyone's hearing it. And they're like, I don't know, man. I'm not going. I'm not doing this. I'm not going, man. That looks dumb.
Nobody
wants was.
Nobody wanted to see it. The critics hated it. It got nominated for 8 Razzies.
8.
And
it won a bunch.
It won 5 out of 8.
Yeah.
For worst, like it didn't, but where it lost was on the acting side. It didn't win the worst acting side. First, Will Smith wasn't even nominated for it. Kevin Kline got worst actor nomination. Will Smith
was very bad.
Will Smith doesn't even get considered for it. So good for him. That's
I think that's good. I think that's true.
He's hardly the worst part of this film.
He gave a charming.
He did a good job.
He did what he could with this.
Yeah. Compared to Kevin Kline and everybody else, Salma Hayek. But it's sort of like so. But Kenneth Branagh has like the biggest loss. So he loses at the Razzies for Best Supporting Actor to Jar Jar Binks.
That kind of sucks because that probably went into him being suicidal.
I mean, that's gonna mess a man up. Jar Jar Binks.
The actor
Jar Jar Binks.
Suicidal.
The actor has gone through a lot.
I did not know that.
Yeah, there's been articles about that, interviews.
Whoa.
They call him like Space Negro.
Oh, they
Uncle
were
Tom.
harsh to him.
I remember I remember the backlash. I didn't realize the actor had done that. That's wild.
Yeah, he'd been through a lot. So like it's sort of like it was a real time of the Razzies obviously is full of snark, and it was just sort of
Star Wars fans can be dicks. When did this start?
Brand new. Sarcasm.
It's brand new.
Sarcasm.
We just discovered it on this podcast. No one has ever dealt with that before.
Never happened before until now. So, it's at the end of the day, it is what it is. It didn't ruin anybody's career per se. Barry Sonnenfeld got to go back and do Men in Black 2. So he got to, and then Men in Black 3 in 2012. So he wasn't destroyed by it. Will Smith obviously continued to make movies and become a even bigger star over the years. Kevin Kline, he kept making movies, but he was sort of on the downward. He was sort of on the downward.
If anybody
trend
were to say
anyway.
to you, if you hadn't seen this film, you know what I'm saying, and you were like, Wild Wild West, who was in it? They'd be like, Will Smith and
probably Selma, maybe.
They might know that.
She was on the cover, so
yeah. I think they would struggle to remember that Kevin Kline was cast in that role.
Yeah, Kevin Kline was
Will Smith was the thing.
Kevin Kline was not anywhere near the kind of level of movie star that Will Smith was.
Was this pre or post Dave? My favorite Kevin Kline.
Oh God, I think this is post Dave
because he played the president in both of those.
It's true.
He plays 2 fake presidents. If they're back to back, then it's 2 movies in a row where he plays a fake president. And that's got to be a record. There's no way anybody did 2 fake president movies in a row. We talked about it in the main segment with Angry Blackmen.
Great guests, great guys.
We talked about how nobody really got affected by this film. But I truly believe this was an unfair blight on Will Smith's career because things did change after this. Okay. It's not like our normal drop off. I think we're comparing it to our normal drop off where like this person never worked around Hollywood again. They live in Upper Indiana and they own a fleet of snow shovels or snow shovelers.
We watch
a bunch of Mr. Plows.
Yeah. We watch a lot of career killers.
Right. This wasn't a career killer, but I do believe, and maybe I'm crazy, but I feel like things shifted after this. That's when you start seeing these different roles coming up because some of these like large blockbusters, they're moving on. They now believe that you're tainted and you can get in the whys and the wheres and the hows, but I think it did have sort of a negative effect on Will. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy.
There are a lot of actors who could have had this be the demise of their career. And I think if you have actors who have other factors that are going on in their lives that are preventing them, you've seen a lot of people have these really stark downfalls. And, I think he was definitely so focused on his career that he was not going to become one of those casualties. Like, and then, like, obviously, as I said before, like, there's the Oscar bait stuff. There's an ability to do this, still keep doing interesting blockbustery films. He still works with interesting directors.
Sure.
He's not making
I'm not
as
yet.
many great films as he used to, but like, what is the lifespan truly of like the blockbuster, family friendly movie star? How many of those films does any actor get, and for how
No,
long?
totally. There were so many. You know what I mean? I think
Yeah.
that Hollywood was like waiting for the first excuse to be like,
Yeah.
okay, now we can get a new flavor of the week.
There are so few Tom
Because
Cruises.
there's always a little bump there in viewership if there's a new
Sure.
person at the helm of the July 4th blockbuster.
Yeah.
Back then,
You're going to have different people who are going to come up at various different times for whatever reasons, and they're going to be the ones of the moment. And he had this fantastic moment. What's interesting is that he stayed bankable and saleable for so long after that,
Right.
where it's just like, now it's like, yeah, he might not be anyone's favorite actor necessarily.
Right.
But even in this piece of shit movie, which, let's just be honest,
It's a
watched
piece of shit. I believe it to be a piece of shit.
He was the least worst part of it all.
Oh, absolutely. I think we talked about it a little bit earlier, but he gave as hard a charm as he could. Like, he was a charming dude. He really tried to sell the idea that he was the hero of this film. Even though he's working together with a partner, wink, wink, like, I'm still in charge here, and
Right.
everything's going to be cool because nothing happens to Big Willie style.
Yeah.
Nothing.
He's charismatic. He's charismatic.
You can't get rid of Big Willie style. He's been here too long.
At the end of the day, I think that this is a bad movie from an otherwise perfectly fine actor who, was
Kevin Kline made some bangers after this, I'm sure. I can't remember any of them right off the top of my head, but I'm sure there's a bunch.
I'm going to say all of your favorite Kevin Kline movies happened before this, probably.
Really? Did French Kiss happen before this? That movie ripped.
I don't know. I know In and Out was before this. Obviously,
I didn't
Fish
see
Called Wanda.
that.
Oh, In and Out's fun. There's
I
a
saw
lot of
Fish
these
Called
things.
Wanda. It wasn't my favorite.
Although I will say In and Out might not hold so well today. I'm really thinking about it.
I want to dive this a little bit.
Yeah, sure. I mean, and like Salma Hayek obviously went on and made way more films, stayed huge.
No, totally different
star.
human after that.
Kenneth Branagh is Poirot now. He's done Poirot in like 3.
I liked Orange County. Oh, you're not wrong though. Oof, the Pink Panther.
Pink Panther with Steve Martin's in there.
Oh my.
Yeah, look at this stuff after Wild Wild West. But he was never like a huge movie star as well. Like, the ones that I cited are like, there are films that are not blockbusters. He wasn't doing the blockbusters. So I hope he got some money from this. I hope he got a nice check for this movie. Just for
the Ice Storm. I forgot about the Ice Storm.
Again, Ice Storm's before this. Ice Storm's like what, 97, 96?
No, totally. I think all I'm really saying, the original point I was going to make, and I'm meandering because I'm so high.
Yes,
is that I think there were some real life consequences to Wild Wild West. They're not easy to see, but one of them that I noticed is that I feel dumber having watched it twice. Like, by halfway through the second viewing, I believed myself to be in it for the wrong reasons. You know what I mean? Like, what am I really? Are we really just going to choose crap from these people's careers? Let's make sure that we get some good movies going for the boys.
Yeah, and look, I do want to say I really want to retire the idea of the old hashtag that we used to use of bad movies, good guests. I still want to bring on good guests, obviously.
Right, and bad movies are always going to be in our DNA. But this was a rough. We could have done so much with this pick.
It was a harder,
and we squandered it with this.
I mean, if we'd picked Men in Black. If we pick
the only parts of the South we see are battlefields and brothels. That's it.
That's what I think.
They're in New Orleans, and they don't even film New Orleans. They're like, oh, here's the inside of this giant building that
Yeah, because they
It's
shot
a
everything in
brothel.
New Mexico. Everything was shot in New Mexico or
Yeah.
on green screen. So
Ugh.
no. But
Dude, the green screening. We didn't even talk about the green screening.
The green screening is horrendous.
I feel like they liked it more than us.
They might
I
have.
deplore this film. I'm so glad to get past this piece of
So
garbage.
I want to make a promise to the people who listen to, or now because we're focusing more on video, watching these episodes.
Or want to do the show.
or even for future guests. Yes.
Yeah.
We're not just going to be like, let's pick the worst movies.
Right.
I think we did a pretty good job last season of balancing it, but it did tip at times and some cruise. Like obviously films like Down with the King, Crazy Rich Asians. I feel like we did some
that shit was
that
cool.
were great, cool, fun, enjoyable, interesting, compelling movies. This season, I'm promising that we are not going to just be doing shit movie after shit movie after shit movie.
No, that's not what thank you, Gary.
No,
we haven't had this conversation.
I'm not doing this. No,
we're getting. I can't do this again.
We're airing this out. We're airing this out.
Great.
There has to be a reason to do this. There has to be a reason for us to do this. There has to be some joy in this process. And I'm going to say that while I can't promise that we're only going to do quote unquote good movies, because we are looking for interesting performances, I promise that we are not going to focus on bad films. We're not going to
no more rollerballs.
However, there are a few opportunities during this season where we're going to let some of the guests decide what they watch. So they may choose something bad, and that may give us a little bit of accountability that we can kind of say, like, well, we didn't pick this one.
All this is going to prove over and over again, by the way, is that everyone's better people than us.
Yes, probably.
That they're better friends to us than we are to them.
The other thing I want to promise, though, is that we have sort of shied away from the kind of iconic classic hip hop movies.
Right.
There's a lot of films that we have not done that are sort of like definitive hip hop movies. And I'm going to say, I can't promise we're going to cover all of your favorites, but this season we are going to touch on some pretty big ones. We're going to touch on some films that are considered hip hop classics.
Yeah.
Definitely. So stick with us. It's going to be an interesting ride. We hope you enjoy it. We appreciate your even paying us any attention at this point.
It's the Cabbages Podcast Network.